Hi, I'm Ron Hock. Hock blades have set the standard for plane iron since 1981. We offer blades for most of the metal planes, like my trusty number 5 here. We also offer blades for planes that don't exist until you build a plane around one of them, like this Krenov-style wooden plane that I made from one of our kits. Okay, you might not be able to get your shavings to float up and away, but I guarantee that a Hock blade will improve the way your plane performs. Remember that a plane is just a holder for a blade. Hock blades perform better because of the steel that we start with. And there are many steels to choose from. There are high-speed steels that are used for cutting metal, like a drill bit. Stainless steels, like you might want in some kitchen knives. Chrome vanadium steels, which make good wrenches and screwdrivers. But none of those makes the best, sharpest cutting edge. And that's what we care most about here at Hock Tools, offering you the best possible cutting edge. We offer our blades in high-carbon steel as well as cryogenically treated A2 tool steel, which, though it's a bit harder to sharpen, does hold an edge longer. Adding the alloying elements that are required to make those high-speed stainless or chrome vanadium steels increases the grain size of the steel during the heat treatment process. Take a look at this diagram. You'll see that the finer the grain, the sharper the edge you can get. And when you get down to the kind of sharpness that fine woodworkers demand, the grain size in the steel becomes your only limitation. Our blades are a bit thicker than stock blades, and this helps with edge stability while planing, reducing chatter and facilitating those satiny surfaces that you can get when you're using a truly sharp blade in a well-tuned plane, a surface you wouldn't want to fuzz up with any sandpaper. But a replacement blade can't be too much thicker, or the plane won't work properly. Remember that the depth adjuster in this plane reaches through the blade and engages the little slot in the breaker to move the blade and breaker up and down. If the blade's too thick, the adjuster lever won't reach the breaker, or it'll only reach for a portion of its arc, neither of which is any good at all. Of course, I also have a Hock chip breaker in this plane. It's considerably thicker than the flimsy stock breaker. The advantage here is that our heavier breaker adds support right down at the cutting edge. The blade in a bench plane like this is used with the bevel down, which means the cutting edge cantilevers out into space for the length of the bevel. Our thicker breaker supports the bevel closer to the cutting edge, further reducing deflection and the possibility of chatter. Because of the extra thickness of our blades and breakers, when you install a Hock blade and/or breaker in your plane, there are a couple of adjustments you'll need to make so they'll fit properly and you'll get the best performance from them. First, you'll have to back out the hold-down screw. Just back it out a turn or so, install the new blade and breaker, and tighten it back down so that it's snug, but still moves easily with the adjuster. Now check the width of the mouth slot. It only needs to be a bit wider than the thickness of the shaving you want to take. If you're going to be doing rough dimensional planing, the mouth can be a lot wider than if you'll be taking fine finishing passes. To adjust the mouth, you may need to move the frog a bit. The frog is the ramp that the blade assembly sits on, and 2 screws under the blade hold it down. But before you adjust it, take a minute to remove the frog from the plane and clean out any crud or corrosion that may be under it. Just take the blade and breaker out, remove the screws, and out comes the frog. You want good metal-to-metal contact between the frog and the plane body to ensure maximum rigidity. No paint, shavings, or anything in there. When replacing the frog, just snug the screws so the frog can still be adjusted. Most of these metal planes have a frog adjuster screw in behind the frog. Put the blade and breaker back in place and use the adjuster to move the frog until the mouth opening is perfect. Take the blade and breaker back out again and tighten the frog screws securely. Before you install your new Hock blade and breaker in your plane, you'll want to make sure the blade is sharp. Our replacement blade should come to you sharp enough to use, but everyone has their own opinion of how sharp is sharp enough, so let's talk about sharpening for a minute. I won't presume in this short presentation to do justice to the many nuances of sharpening, but I'll try to explain the theory and we'll take up the details at another time. A sharp edge is one where 2 planes or surfaces, in the case of a plane blade, the bevel and the flat back of the blade, come together at an edge with 0 radius, or as close to 0 radius as we can achieve. This is where our fine-grained steel comes in. By using a steel with the finest possible grain structure, we can get as close as possible to the unattainable 0 radius. A blade dulls as its cutting edge radius gets larger and larger, or, if you will, rounder and rounder. So if this makes sharpening seem easy, well, in theory it is. Simply abrade the two intersecting surfaces of your blade with finer and finer grits until the two surfaces meet with zero radius all along the edge. Any abrasive method that you may have or prefer is fine, and there are many available. I'm using water stones here today, but there are diamond stones, ceramic stones, and the sandpaper Scary Sharp system. So ask around, talk to the pros at the woodworking store. You'll find a method that fits your style and pocketbook, and it'll work if you just remember the goal of zero radius and work toward that. Start with the finest grit that will get the job done. If the edge is in good shape, but just a little dull, start at maybe 800 grit and work until a burr forms. The burr may not be easy to see, but if it's there, you'll be able to feel it with a fingernail. And if it's not there, you haven't reached zero radius yet. Once you have a burr, go to a finer grit, which will remove the burr, and then with the finer grit, you'll form another burr. It'll be smaller with each finer grit. If a burr doesn't form quickly enough for you, you may want to back up to a coarser grit to speed things along. Once the initial burr forms, subsequent grits go quickly. I like to polish the edge to about 8,000 grit and finish with a couple of swipes on a chrome oxide strop. A sharp, polished edge performs better and will stay sharper longer. Okay, ready to test it out. I start with it backed up and cutting nothing, and advance the blade slowly until it just starts to cut. If it's not cutting all the way across the blade, use the lateral adjuster to cant the blade slightly as needed. A plane is just a holder for a blade. It'll never work well without a good blade in it. After that, the plane just needs a little adjusting and cleaning, and you'll be taking shavings you can read through. I'm Ron Hock. Thanks for watching.